Hey everyone, welcome to Foot Friday. So today I am going to talk to you about foot number 6. And Bernina calls that an embroidery foot, which is kind of confusing because when this foot came out, embroidery was essentially decorative stitches. And now when you refer to embroidery, I'm expecting hooped embroidery. So we're not doing hooped embroidery, and actually right now we're doing something super simple. I've told the machine that I have the number 6 foot on, that I have a 9mm plate on, and that I'm going to use Satin Stitch number 1354. I didn't alter it at all. I used it just the way it was in the machine. And you find these particular stitches in that little icon there that looks like a quilt. Because when you look in the decorative stitch menu, and some of you will have these little boxes, you'll see that the box that's, says 1300 doesn't exist here. It's actually in there. And then you'll see that these are 1300 and something for stitches. And I've just selected that satin stitch now. And you'll see number 6 foot on my machine. And I've just been doing a simple satin stitch, as I said. You can set it up yourself. You can set a pre-programmed one. Now, we've often talked about feet and the bottom. The bottom's the most important part. And you can see that sort of V, gentle V. That part there, that's underneath the foot, and it's got some depth to it here and here. It allows heavier stitches to go through. And the opening is 5.5mm on this foot. And it has sort of this angled tunnel so that when you're turning corners and you're heading to either left or right, the thickness of your stitch will travel through nice and smooth. The difference from the number 6 to some of the other feet that also do decorative stitching and satin stitch is it has the toe still here. It's very similar to several other feet in the Bernina lineup, except that it's only 5.5mm, and right here in the very front, there's a little tiny hole, and it will hold, right now it's holding cotton cording size 8, and I've just threaded it into the foot. You can perhaps see there. Let's maybe go in just a little closer. I like for you to see what I see. So you can see that this is right in the foot. And I just have that basic satin stitch on there. What I'm doing is today is I'm taking an okay, but pillowcase and giving it a little oompah-pah. So you can see where I started. A little bit of gapping at the beginning, but I'm gonna go over top of that. I'm gonna, now that I'm an inch and a half from the beginning, I'm gonna cut off this tail. Don't need it sticking out. Often I would suggest you pick cord that matches your embroidery thread, but I had white open. Some of you might have white. If you are slow and patient enough, we're just stitching over it. It's a little corded satin stitch. And what that hole does for us is keeps that cord going straight in under the stitches, and we don't have to concern ourselves with holding it. If you only had an open toe foot with no hole, you might actually have to hold that, and oftentimes that can go wrong. Because right now what I'm focusing on is keeping my foot straight. Now, I've come to the beginning where I cut that cord a second ago, and I'm going to cut this now because I don't want to double it up. I want it to be a single layer all the way along. So I'm just going to snip it off at the front of the hole and carry on stitching till I'm right about here where the ends of the foot are about where I want to end. So I have to go another 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch to hide that tail and to meet from the end to the beginning. And what you can see is I've got this beautiful, happy, gorgeous kind of a salmon, happy color, where the pillowcase is kind of a toasty beige. It's a Kona fabric color similar to scone. So when I've got to the end here, I'm just gonna put my knot function on and hit the scissors. And out she comes. So I'll just pull back a little bit so you can see more of what I'm working on. But you can see it was a pillowcase, kind of blah. You can buy beautiful pillowcases. You might already own beautiful pillowcases. They may or may not match the quilt you've made or the bedding you've made. And sometimes we don't want them super fussy. So what I've done here is I've added essentially a fake piping right in the seam between the pillowcase sack and the cuff. And all I did was put that cord into that satin stitch. Here's some of the cording that we have in beautiful colors. And if, I wasn't being a little bit silly, I could have used a matching cord. Just simple. Pick a matching thread to either if the fabric, it will disappear even if under there, or I've got a lovely matching isocord. It's just a happy kind of coral color. Simple way to use a basic foot. I think based on the trade-ins that we get of older machines, I have a feeling they might have come with a lot of machines. And you can still buy them for the current models and the vintage models. Knocked my thread out. There's a slot in the front of this foot to bring your thread under. Now, if you just want to do some basic satin stitching, let's just pull that in there. And if the satin stitching is gappy, you would tighten the stitch length from 0.6 to 0.5, 0.4, 0.3, whatever works on your machine. So that's just a simple satin stitch there. And if your machine's not stitching well and not covering the cord, that would be another reason to, have something pretty matching. I brought in this gorgeous orange too. It was a real toss-up between those and these kind of warm salmons. I'll put them in the light there. You can see them just a little better. That light in the Bernina is your best friend. So wonderful pearl cotton and whatever embroidery thread you might want on the top will give you that gorgeous piping. Because of how the foot is formed, any of these decorative stitches we could also stitch. And some of them are quite lovely just on their own. Let's bring you down here. Perfect. And when you've told the machine what foot you have on, even though there's a 9mm hole under there, it knows it's a 5.5mm foot, so it immediately shrinks your stitch to fit. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry about it. If you don't have a machine that you can identify the foot being used, make sure that you don't accidentally go too wide. Isn't that pretty? It's just a simple stitch. But remember that angle that's under there? That allows you to turn and keep that bulb freely moving from front to back. And I'm gonna change direction from the center of my stitch. Even though this is a quick sample, I like to follow the rules so that you remember. Right, when I'm done, I might want to use the knot function. You gotta know where it is. Gotta test. I didn't like that one. I'm gonna pull it out and show it to you. See how it kind of took itself off to the side there? That's something you really need to know. You'd like that to end better. Things you need to become familiar with. And the feet that are similar to the number 6, I'll give you the numbers. Number 20, 39, 56. These feet are similar, not the same. And as we get through the features on Friday, the foot features, we'll cover them all. We want to give every foot its own day. They all deserve, their 15 minutes of fame. Today's foot it's a great little thing to have. You might already have one, haven't used it in a while, can't remember what you bought it for. I hope you pull it out and give it a little bit of love. The pillowcase, you can see, this is kind of a warm, toasty, creamy color. And just adding this little bit here, right? Isn't that lovely? It just snazzed it up a bit. And if you have some plain white pillowcases, I have kind of give them a little more formal, crisp detail with just a simple black piping there. A fake piping, I didn't take them apart, I didn't insert it. That's what the cord is great for. If we put, well, let me see. Let's go. I just thought of something I want to do. Let's do it. All right, so I'm going to take the foot off. I'm going to thread my cord in there first. I'm going to give it a long tail out the back so I don't lose it while I'm putting the foot on. And then I'll just pull that there. Let's try decorative couching. It's also good for decorative couching. Almost forgot. So for this one, because it's such a wee cord, you might want to find something that doesn't have too many details going on in the middle. Something that maybe has a little more going on the outsides. This one is 702 in this machine. It's kind of just squares. Not very exciting. It's called a hem stitch. Some of you will have seen it as pulled work in linen, but if you had, I'm just going to keep the white in there so it's easy to see. But this thing's just going to sew little boxes over top of that cord. Give it a little bit of detail. It's going to be right in the middle. We could make those boxes a little bit smaller. But for now, I'm just going to let them be as they are out of the machine. Let's pick something a little different. Oh, this one. This one's always a little fun. 709. It's going to do a heavy bead stitch to the right and then to the left and to the right, left. And then it does one tiny little almost invisible stitch across the middle. but that'll be just enough to hold that cord in place. It's kind of an interesting little stitch, isn't it? So you see, I'm just catching the cord right down the middle, and it becomes part of that design. I could actually, if I wanted to gussy up my pillowcase even further, you could do some of those in the cuff, even on a finished pillowcase. Just remember, you might need, under here, there's some stabilizer under here. So there's some body to this sample that I'm working on. Keep it from puckering up. So enjoy your features. Please subscribe. I know a lot of you are watching. We can see your views, but it'd be super helpful if you actually subscribe, and if you recommend our YouTube page to your friends. Sure would appreciate that. Anyway, you guys have a great weekend. I'll talk to you soon.